Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The SMGs here in Black Ops 7 honestly have a ton of parity within the category itself. There's a lot of different SMGs for different styles of play. If you like a low recoil, more mid-range based option, if you like a super aggressive fast TTK option, there's a little bit of something for everybody. And since we've got 6 SMGs, instead of just doing a top 5 best SMGs and leaving one out, I figured, hey, why not break down the best class setup to use in Black Ops 7 multiplayer for every single SMG that we've got. First up here, I do want to check out the stats real quick on COD Unity, talk about some of the parity in this overall category here. You can see we've got all 6 subs, the Syden, the Dravec, the Carbon, the RK9, the Razor, and the MPC25. And as you can see on this graph, things are all over the place, quite frankly. The RK9's TTK potential is insane because of its burst properties, but you have to be landing all 3 shots in that burst, ideally to the upper body, to get these super fast TTKs. Otherwise, it's not going to be as impressive. You have something like the MPC, which is really good up close, but then falls off decently hard over the mid-range as well. Something like the Syden is actually okay up close, but then is pretty good in the mid-range. And then you also have things like the Razor, which just kind of fry across the board, which is pretty cool as well. There's also a lot of parity in their overall stats here, looking at the TTKs. What's great here, and even like their handling properties, is that in your TTK category versus your handling versus your damage, etc., you're not seeing the same exact gun at the top every single time. If that was the case, you'd have an absolute crutch like #1 weapon that is the meta. Instead, it's a lot of flipping back and forth here depending on what stat you're looking at here. Whether the reloading stuff is different, you'll see some shifts there. Same deal with ADS speed, the damage, the recoil, things of that nature, general mobility and whatnot. There's a lot of back and forth here. So that means ultimately it's going to come down to what are you comfortable with, what feels right for you, and then factoring in a little bit of the stats, you know, for your play style, whether you're more of an ADS type player, a sprint to fire, hip fire, whatever the case is. But this category's got a lot to offer. Let's jump in and break down the best setup for every single SMG. So first up here, we've got the Syden. As we saw on the graph, this thing's actually pretty good out into that mid-range area. Obviously, you're not really using SMGs out at like 40-meter ranges. They're just not going to have crazy damage there. But close range, mid-range, this thing's actually pretty versatile. It's also not too difficult to use, all things considered. You get used to that recoil pattern. It's going to be a pretty strong contender across the board here. Just a very versatile SMG. First up here, I'm kind of back and forth on the iron sights of this thing. They're not awful, but I don't love them. I found myself to be way more accurate with a Lethal Tools ELO on here for sure. I do like the Hawker Series 45 compensator for that better vertical control, just making the gun a little bit easier to use overall there. I also pretty much rock long barrels on the vast majority of my SMGs. Obviously, they're going to have their fastest TTKs up close, and when you can get that faster TTK range out to a further distance, that's an objective win. So long barrels are obviously going to be super advantageous there. I've got the Flow Guard foregrip, which helps out a little bit with horizontal recoil, so that's a win. Plus movement speed across the board here, so it's going to be an even more aggressive option. And then recoil springs just to keep things even more accurate. You want that fast TTK, and you only achieve that by actually landing your shots, so that's pretty important to me. Obviously, just a 5 attachment build here. If you're looking for a gunfighter build, you could absolutely throw on a rear grip for either better ADS or sprint to fire. Those would be my first 2 I'd look at there. You could use a laser either for hip fire spread and whatnot, or to maybe even extend your damage range more if you want with the agile laser. The swift point for a better ADS and sprint to fire is also not too bad. And then maybe even a stock as well. The prestige attachment's not terrible for some mobility. That could be an option there too, or the strafing stock with the ventral is a pretty good choice in my opinion, so you could upgrade there as you see fit. Obviously, the build codes for all of these will be on screen in the bottom left there, but also I'll make sure to have them alongside the timestamps on the video. Next up here, the RK9, our burst SMG. As we saw on that graph, this thing has some pretty wild potential for its TTK. If you're able to land headshots, upper body shots, that entire first burst, this thing can be wild, especially with the prestige attachment on here. That does change up a little bit how the weapon's going to feel overall here, right? First up, again, not too huge on the iron, so I go for the Lethal Tools ELO. That's by far my go-to optic here. And yet again, we got that long barrel on there. This is going to end up having a 12-meter first damage range with that fastest TTK, then all the way out to 25 with that second damage range. The prestige attachment here, though, gets rid of the auto burst. So by default, you can just hold down the trigger and this thing will consistently burst after burst after burst, which makes it pretty easy to use. You get better control and a better fire rate though with this if you're able to just spam it, and I don't find that to be all that difficult. So this is a pretty solid prestige attachment in my opinion. I do go for the Lotus Draw grip for the better ADS speed on there as well. Then I also rock the Lantra step stock, which is the better strafe stock. Yet again, I love the added strafe speed on these builds. Once more, if you wanted to upgrade to a full-on gunfighter loadout, you could throw on a muzzle here for some better control if you really really wanted to. Fire mods here, recoil springs, although it doesn't really have too much recoil and you don't really have a need for overpressured velocity here. Like close range, the velo is going to be just fine. And you could also go for something like a laser for sprint to fire for better range on there if you wanted to as well. But really, just with 5 attachments, this thing is doing more than enough. And by the way, as we are going through the various weapons and setups here today, if you guys enjoy the video, you find the information helpful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It's always seriously appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, you want to ensure you are always in the know for everything going on in Call of Duty, this is the place to be. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Next up here, we've got the Razor. I won't lie, this was originally one of my least favorite weapons in the game when I first started using it, first started leveling it, and then they actually ended up buffing it, which actually helps out a ton. I can't even lie, but I just got more familiar with it. After you get the prestige attachment, that can help out too. This is definitely going to be a run and gun style SMG, but it's also decently versatile as well, which is pretty nice, as we saw on the graph there. Of course, again, not huge on the iron sights, unfortunately, so I'm rocking that lethal tools elo yet again. Preference here, as always, if you like a different optic more, feel free to switch that up where you see fit. Vertical control here with the precision compensator, a must-have in my opinion. There's a noticeable amount of recoil here. I also do like the prestige attachment a lot. The stable bullet velocity barrel helps out with the velocity, which is what it is, but then recoil stabilization across the board makes this thing very, very accurate here. Does hurt the ADS speed and the sprint to fire speed though a little bit, and that's why I kind of go back and forth between the haste ribbed and then also the ready flex rear grip, either or here, either for the better ADS or sprint to fire. You can kind of pick your poison there. And then also the swift point laser on here as well for the better ADS and sprint to fire. So we're gaining some of that back, we're speeding it up a little bit, and maintaining control because of our barrel and our muzzle on here as well. So this thing's pretty fun to use. Obviously, if you don't have the full-on prestige attachment here, you can either switch over to the long barrel if you wanted to for that better range. You could throw in an under barrel as well for what it's worth, and get some better control there. And if you're upgrading to full-on gunfighter, again with fire mods, recoil springs here would be pretty solid. A stock for better strafe I think could be pretty good as well. Then even if you wanted to, if you're not rocking an underbarrel or something, extended mags at this rate of fire, having that extra safety net, not a bad option either. So there's a lot of different ways you could build out the Razor. Then we've got the Dravec here. This thing is definitely, in my opinion, the easiest SMG to use. It's a laser beam. Like, there's very little recoil here, which means you can fight out into some mid-range and not really have to worry about it too much like on some other ones that might be like bouncing all over the place. This one's pretty straightforward and definitely one of my favorite feeling SMGs in the game here. Again, the iron sights, they're all right. I'm much more accurate with an elo sight on there, so I'm rocking that. I've also got the horizon barrel for the better damage range here, out to 18 meters on that first effective damage range, so that's fantastic there. We've got the quick arm rear grip for the better ADS speed, keeping things nice and aggressive there. I love the agile laser on this thing. Better sprint to fire and ADS time, better base movement speed, and better damage range all in one. Now it does hurt your control, but luckily this is a super easy SMG to use, so that's not a huge concern. Plus I've also got recoil springs on here as well to maintain some of that recoil as well. You could also go through, again, upgrade to a stock for a better strafe speed on there, put on a muzzle, a compensator here for some better control. Then if you had the extra attachment, you might as well use it, throw on an extended mag if you want, or you could have a fast loader if you want that better ADS and sprint to fire on there too. Overall, this thing is a phenomenal SMG regardless of how you build it. Then we've got the Carbon 57. I'm not gonna lie, I'm so back and forth with this thing. One game, I love the feel of it. I feel like I'm frying, I'm running a gun and spraying and praying and just doing fantastic. The next game, I just feel like I'm bouncing around a little bit too much with it. It just feels a little bit weird. So I don't know what it is with this gun. I just can't quite get it to the spot where I love it like I love some of the other SMGs, but it's still able to hold its own just fine here. This by default, I actually run a gunfighter loadout. Figured why not load this thing up again. I've got that lethal tools elo on there. You guys are gonna be sick of me saying that by the end of this video for sure. We got the KNS compensator on here for that better vertical control. I've also got the long barrel on here again just to extend out that damage range. We're looking at an 18 meter first effective range here as well. The quick step foregrip on here for that better movement speed and a little bit of hip fire and strafe speed as well. You could also go ahead and rock the sapper on here if you wanted to for the better control. I find it to be pretty easy with the build that I've got on here, and this adds in some versatility, stacking the strafe speed and then of course giving you some hip fire movement too if you need that. I like the prestige attachment too. It hurts the damage range a little bit, but we're still sitting pretty with that long barrel on there, and you get better movement, strafe, magazine capacity, and sprint speed. Like, that's a phenomenal aftermarket part. We've got the Puck 57 grip, which is for a better ADS speed. We've got the agile laser, which actually helps out that damage range as well, so we've kind of canceled out the cons of our aftermarket part. And then recoil springs again just to keep things easy here. It's a pretty aggressive SMG, and you have all the ammo in the world to just spray and pray, which makes it pretty fun. And then lastly here we've got the MPC, and this is a real hit or miss style SMG in my opinion. The control here, for this being a classic weapon, for this being the MSMC, it doesn't perform as good as I'd like. We obviously saw the TTK, especially up close, can be pretty crazy, but you got to get that recoil down, and this thing bounces around a lot, especially as you're leveling it. It's going to take some time to get used to here. Again, I would be rocking a gunfighter one on this just to maximize their overall efficiency. Lethal tools, elo, once more on here. The irons are okay. They're probably one of the better ones in class, but again, I just find myself being more accurate with an actual optic on here. Definitely want the compensator for the better vertical control on here. Long barrel extends out that damage range to 12 meters, which is not crazy, but it's going to be better than without it for sure. We've got the drift lock foregrip on here for the better horizontal control. Absolutely need this on here. There's a lot of horizontal bounce, which is pretty frustrating. I also go for the first shot and vertical control rear grip on here, the magnate grip, just to make the gun a little bit easier to use. We've got the pedal stock for the better strafe speed. Love the feel of that. Swift point on here for the better ADS and sprint to fire. And then lastly, recoil springs to keep things accurate as well. So we're stacking a good amount of mobility on here, a little bit of range, some precision, and then also obviously a whole lot of control as well to help make things a little bit easier. With that being said, that is going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It's always seriously appreciated. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.